Go ahead and kick us off, Bobby. We're recording.
You would have a Yeti, you snob.
Yeah, I've got two.
I'm
Look,
just
I've got
mad.
two in the same.
So,
Look, and I've
I,
got two in the room.
yeah,
Don't call
I've
me
got
a
a Yeti.
snob because I have a Yeti.
You
I
know,
only
Arctic's
bought
the
one
same
of
thing.
them.
Arctic's the same thing, half as much.
Yeah, but Yeti's owned by an Aggie. I got to support the brand.
I don't want to hear it. Anyways, yeah. So today we're gonna. I actually have a Yeti too. Um,
Oh,
so
okay,
we're gonna be
snob.
talking about. Yeah, I know. But, I mean, you have two of them. So we're gonna be
You
talking about
didn't
which.
know
Which
that.
let me talk to the people. Let me talk to the people. Mike,
You
don't worry
started
right
this.
now.
You started this.
Sorry, we're just having an old married couple fight, which is what we do pretty much all day.
All day long.
So we're going to be talking about the first step. So a lot of you have probably taken the course, um, and you're wondering, what the heck do I do now? Because there's a lot of information in the course. You probably got in the group and you saw that there's a lot of information in the group, and you're probably excited, probably a little bit overwhelmed, maybe a little bit scared. And so we're gonna go through the things that we suggest that you do, and what you should focus on first. And I think it'll be really helpful for everybody that is new, and maybe even it'll help refocus some of the people that aren't new, that have been with us since January when we launched this thing. So
Yep.
that's the plan tonight, and so we've got some really cool stuff for you guys.
And we're also going to talk about the things you shouldn't do,
Oh yeah.
and if you're one of the people that did those things and you're on the call, we'll definitely call you out and embarrass you because that's how we roll.
Yeah.
Michael says mommy and daddy are fighting. So anyway, no, this is going to be a good one. And we've got a bunch of like really cool trainings, guests and stuff. We're efforting a kind of high ticket sales training next week. If not, it'll be the week after. That's going to be really cool. We've got a training we'll have Adam coming on soon, teaching us some real estate stuff. So we've got a lot of cool things coming up, and then Bobby and I doing some more advanced things like retargeting campaigns and things of that nature. So, but what we wanted to do this week is we wanted to see what everybody wanted, right? And man, I'm like buying time because I'm trying to figure out where the volume's coming from. Got it.
Got him.
So so what you guys have seen this, especially those of you that have been here from the beginning, where we tend to have a schedule of what we want to do. And then, if we see anything that's kind of like a trend in the group or anything like that, we usually change it. And we just kind of wanted to open it to the group and just ask, like, what's going on? What do you need? Because, we've got more of a variety in the group now. And so people are in different places. And one of the things that kept coming up was, we've got the training I signed my first client. Now what do I do? And that's a really popular one. But what about, I just finished the course and now what do I do? And so that one came up so much, we figured that we needed to do that. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And we'll just dive into it. And I think the very first thing is you finish the course, you've gone through all the videos. You're probably trying to decide, do I watch the videos again? Do I go set up a website or whatever it is you're trying to do? And thing number one, which we've beat to death, but we're going to say it again, is go try and find a client.
Yep.
Right? You got to just go out there and try and find a client. And we think that's super important. We think that's more important than trying to master the material. We think that's more important than trying to set up your agency or whatever, because what's the point of having a side hustle if it's not earning you any money? And then on top of that, like some of the stuff you can't really figure out until you kind of get that experience, So,
Yeah.
so that's the big thing.
I think the thing that I see probably the most, like the first thing, a lot of people are like, I want to go through the course multiple times, or I want to really get everything completely finished, and understand every aspect of this before I start pitching it to clients. But the reality is, you're never going to know everything you need to know. I mean, we've put a ton of stuff in the course, and we've put everything you need to be successful. But there's always going to be some kind of variable. There's always going to be some kind of issue that pops up. That's why you have the group that we're in to ask those kind of oddball questions. But I can just tell you from being a high school teacher, from when I was, everybody has a different learning style, and everybody has different ways that they kind of absorb information. But one of the biggest things that I saw from students was that were uncomfortable to step outside of their comfort zone is they would go back to well, I just need to go back through the material again a couple of times. Because that's safer. It's safer to rewatch the videos than it is to jump out there and start trying to talk to clients if you've never done it before. And so, and it was the same, like it's the parallels between when I was teaching high school and just teaching people this stuff. It's really the same. And so
y'all are like a bunch of middle schoolers.
I said high school.
Whatever.
But it's the same, it's the same thing. Humans, we don't like to be scared, right? We don't like to step out of our comfort zone. We don't like to do things that are uncomfortable. And that's the first thing. I mean, you've got to go out there and just start trying to get clients. And that's why we put so many client acquisition lessons in the course, and additional ones that we've added with like the LinkedIn training with Gary and all
the LinkedIn training and the talking about using the Loom videos. And, what's your buddy did that one like in the first month.
My buddy. I don't know. I've got a lot of friends.
Okay, whatever. You would know what I'm talking about. Your friend had a training and we added it to the course.
Pete. Yeah, Pete had one on going and talking to your chamber of commerce. But the deal is like, if you don't go out there and start trying, and then you can go through the course material 700 times. If you don't have a client, it doesn't matter. Yeah. So that would be the first thing.
Yeah. And there's, I think another thing with that is that, I've heard people say before, well, I just want to go back and I want to like learn some of the important parts. I want to figure out, like really master certain things. You really won't know what you don't know until you go out there. And I think one of the best things about, going and trying to pursue and find a client is that, let me back it up a second. One of the things that we've heard recently in the last week or so about client acquisition was, I don't always know the answers to the questions they ask. Well, that's okay, because by going and having those conversations, you're going to find out what kind of questions they will ask. You're going to find out what things you don't know. That way you can go learn those things. You can come back, you can ask the group, you can go look them up in the course. I see Sean nodding because, he's done a few conversations, he knows. But you got to put yourself out there. If you don't know, enough that if you need to just kind of bumble through it, you can. But if you really don't know something and you're not sure, you just tell them, you know what? I don't know the answer to that, but I will find out and I will get back to you after the call. And that's never a wrong answer. That's always a good thing to do. So we think it's important too, just to start having those conversations so you can learn.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's one of those things too, like from an authenticity standpoint, just the fact that you say, I don't know sometimes, that makes you infinitely more trustworthy than somebody that always has like a quick answer for something, especially to an established business owner that knows they've been around the block a lot. They'd in my experience, they'd much rather somebody say like, I just really don't know right now, but I can find out, than, you coming up with some kind of BS answer, because they can sense that. I mean, people are more intuitive, especially business owners that have been doing it for a while.
Well, and there was a really good thread on this. And if you guys, we started doing the Hustlers Digest, that kind of newsletter each week. I think it goes out on Saturday, where we just put links and stuff from posts. And one of the ones that's coming out this week was we had a post about just kind of that fear of getting started. And there was some really great comments in there mentioning Sean again. Sean had a really great comment about his experience and just sharing. And, but we had a lot of other people coming in there. And I think it was Mike Heath that mentioned that, like, you really don't have to worry about, if you do what we teach you to do, you don't have to worry too much about the fear of not knowing what to say, because you should be listening and you should be asking questions and digging and letting them talk. Like Sean just said here, I'm working on listening more because I tend to talk too fast and too much. I'm the same way. Yeah. But if you ask questions and let them talk, if you let them tell you about their business, that's why one of the first questions is like, tell me about your business. And you just let them talk. They love talking about their business. Bobby and I will talk about our business all day long because it's freaking awesome, and that's how every business owner feels.
Yeah.
I'm sure that your significant others are freaking tired about hearing about your damn side hustle, you know?
Yeah.
So, so let them talk.
Well, and there's data out there. I was just looking for the study. A long time ago, I read a study um, where it was, the people perceive the conversation as better the more that they talk. So like if you talk a lot in a conversation, you'll come away from it. If somebody comes, they ask you like, was that a good conversation or bad conversation? You'll come away with it like, that was great. So if you let somebody else speak a lot and you listen a lot more, that
Yep.
person's going to come away with a positive perception. I'll try to find that, the data for that and share that because it's really interesting.
Yeah. And, I think there's a kind of a theme of today is not just like the things that you should do, but it's, the things that you shouldn't do. And, I think the biggest one that is a should and a shouldn't is whatever. Oh, this isn't coming out right. Whatever it is that you're feeling like resistance to, right? And maybe that's the fear of going out and pursuing the clients. Like if you get done with the course and there's something that you're really excited about doing and you're really drawn toward doing, and then there's something else that you're really scared of or you're afraid to do and you're putting off, generally that thing that you're feeling resistance toward and that you're putting off is the thing you should be doing, and the thing you're excited about is the thing you shouldn't be doing. And so just some examples of that is I finished the course. I can't wait to go make my Facebook page and I can't wait to go build my business cards, but man, I really don't want to go talk to people.
Yeah.
So one of those is really going to move your business forward and one isn't. So, if you've ever heard the phrase, the obstacle is the way, you should always be looking for that point of resistance and going toward it. And I've experienced this. I think about that personally every day. Like I'm constantly thinking about it when I'm thinking about like the work I'm doing, the kinds of things that I do. And I'll give you an example. I fell into it today. I sat down and I had a plan today that I was going to work on a certain project that I've been trying to work on all week. And I sat down and instead I started making ads for Bobby and I. And I really wanted to do that, but it wasn't the thing that I needed to do.
Yeah.
It was fun, but it was me putting something else off. And so, really think about that. Like be aware of that phrase, the obstacle is the way. Think about if there's something that you're doing and you're doing it to avoid something else, you should probably stop and go do that something else.
Well, and I think we should expand too on the, everybody finishes it, not everybody. A lot of people finish the course and they want to do, they want to come up with their marketing website and they want to come up with the business cards like what we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, those things are an easy distraction. But I think the biggest thing to recognize there, because I went that route, like I did the same thing because I'm introverted by nature. I didn't want to go out and talk to business owners. So I was like more focused on my fancy business cards that I still have probably like 100 of because I run an
Because you've never
online
used them.
business and I never used them. But I had them and they made me feel cool, I guess. But the thing about that, and the reason that a secondary reason that people do that outside of the kind of procrastinating the hard stuff is that you want to make your business seem like it's bigger than what it really is. Right. Like I remember when I was doing that, one of the reasons I did it was like, I want to be legit. I want people to think that I'm legit. So I made these Stellaris marketing business cards because I wanted them to think that I was like this like team of people with like, all this stuff.
You're
And really
so fancy, Bobby.
I know they're really nice business cards too. But I wanted people to think that when in reality, I was mowing a guy's yard to work out of his pool shop and it was just me and my computer. And I didn't have a team. But one of the things about that though, is like, I thought that making myself look bigger would help get clients. But the reality is when you start working with these business owners, they understand that the bigger a company is, the more overhead there is. So they know that they're paying a premium for services because they know that they're paying you and you're probably paying somebody else to do the work and you're just being like a sales guy. Whereas if you go in as a solo marketer, like what Mike did from the beginning, where it was just Mike, like he didn't have a website, he didn't have any of this stuff, and he is still working on that. Like business owners that are savvy, they know like, okay, he's not farming it out, so I'm not paying extra for fluff. Like I'm getting the work from this guy. So it's kind of a next level thing to think about too. When you're trying to make yourself
Yeah.
seem bigger, it might actually be detrimental to what you're trying to do.
Yeah. And, you know, here's kind of a funny story because, you know, you talked about you did a website because one of your first prospects asked you to see your website and you were afraid you were going to like lose clients from that.
Yeah.
I didn't get the do you have a website question or anything like that until I was a good ways in and I had a half dozen clients or so. And I remember somebody asking me, hey, can I see your website and such and such? And I'm like, yeah, I don't have a website. And he's like, okay, you own an online business and you're a marketer and you don't have a website. And I was like, I'm too busy making my clients money and taking care of my family and growing my business to worry about a website that has zero impact on my business. Like if you don't want to work with me because I don't now, this is me, you know, I say stuff that other people wouldn't. I'm like, if you don't want to,
it's your personality.
because it was all good there, right? If I was just like, you know, hey, you know, I'm too busy working with clients and making them money to worry about a website. If I would have stopped there, that's probably what you should do. But then I go the further step of saying, you know, like if you're really worried about me not having a website, then this might not be a good fit because that's not a concern for me. I'm, you know, but it worked. Like, you know, they were like, you know, the fact that I was like, I don't have enough time to worry about a website that I don't need because I'm busy getting my clients results. That guy was like, okay, I like your style, you know? So you never know. You never know how people are going to be. But the point is like, you go make money, go talk to people and go have those conversations because you can do all of the stuff. You can go back and you can watch the course and you can do all of that. But instead, like once you finish the course, just set some time to go back through them. Maybe you watch one video a day and then you set a certain amount of time aside to go do your prospecting and go do your stuff. And so, you know, and then if you have questions that come up, you come ask in the group and you go and, you know, you go look in the course for that specific thing. But, you know, I think before, like maybe something that we should do right now, Bobby, is like, before we get into some, you know, some other things, like, why don't we just kind of go through our list and we don't have this prepared, but just kind of off the top of our heads, like if you and we just finished the course and we're just getting started, like, let's just kind of talk about the things that we would do.
From the perspective of like now looking back on it.
Well, like
You know what I
just
mean?
from
Just right now.
knowing what we know, right?
Yeah.
Knowing what we know. And if you wanted, okay, I signed up, you just signed up for, you know, who's here. Let's pretend this course is Allie's. Okay. So we just took Allie's awesome Facebook ads course and we're trying to go get clients. And, you know, what are the things you would do first, starting from ground zero?
I'd go watch the LinkedIn training with Gary.
Yeah. Yep.
And because that's in my opinion, you know, it's not instant, but that one is probably the most access I've ever seen the easiest access to business owners that I've ever seen.
Yep.
The least hoops to jump through, the easiest way to get to business owners and get on their radar. So I would go do that, and I would go do as many LinkedIn connections as I possibly could. And I would just
per day. Yeah.
as per day. And then, you know, I would also do the Facebook group method. I would get into Facebook groups. Because those suit my personality. Like I'm introverted, so it's easy for me to reach out to people online. Like it's way easier for me to do that kind of stuff. So that would be my first. What about you?
Yeah. Well, the LinkedIn one, I think, because it's the closest thing to a funnel without paid traffic. And then I would actually put a tweak on the group method. Obviously, the group method is how I did a lot of things, you know, building those relationships, having those, you know, conversations, commenting, that kind of stuff. But what I would do is I would get active in groups, and I would get active in this course group. I would get very, very active in this course group. Yeah. I would be posting questions. I would be commenting. I'd be joining the conversations. I would be building relationships with the people in the group. Number one, because I can tell you from all the communities I've been in and all the things I've done, the businesses I've worked with, the people that are most active in a community tend to be the most successful. So that's number one. But also there's a lot of resources here, so I would leverage that. And then I would go and do the group method. But what I would do is I would be going and I would be looking at those conversations, and I would be not just looking for opportunities to jump in and talk, but I would be looking at what kinds of questions are being asked. What are people talking about? What are they struggling with? And I would start writing that stuff down. And then that's the stuff I would come back and I would look up in the course. And that's the kind of stuff that I would ask about in the group. Because if I knew that I had the ability, that I saw a really good question kept coming up over and over and over in other communities, and I could come back to this community and ask and have a team of experts give me their answers, and then I could craft a really good answer. Now, the next time I saw that question in a group, I could have the really good answer that made everybody start reaching out to me via PMs. So I would be very, analytical in how I handled those groups. I wouldn't just jump in with answers. I would be looking for the questions and coming up with a good answer. That's random.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's unfortunate about groups, because obviously I run this one, and then we have the other one that's got like 8,000 people in it, the Millennial Money Man community. There are so many people that don't participate, that should be, and it would help them so much if they just jumped in and asked questions or whatever. And there's some kind of fear barrier there, because I think the stats are like, of my audience, Millennial Money Man's going to reach like 2 million people or more this year. Like, it's less than 1% that actually interact with me, which is crazy. Like, a lot of people they get the emails or they whatever, or they see it and they don't ever interact. But it's like, to me, I see the people that interact as the ones that all of a sudden, like, they've got their debt-free story, or they've got, I have 2 clients now with the Facebook course, or like the ones that are interacting and like really in there, they seem to be the ones that are, and maybe other people are doing it and just not telling us about it. But, I think just being a part of the group and a part of the family, like, it makes you feel like you've got somebody backing you up all the time. And I think that's huge for a lot of people.
Yeah. And we've had a lot of people, no, it's not the algorithm. There's some of that. There's some stuff you don't see, but a lot of it is just people not interacting. But what I think, so, just kind of another thing, that I would be doing besides just those kind of like client acquisition strategies, is I would develop a plan of attack. I'm just kind of an action guy, but I think it's important to have a plan. And, with my fitness background, which I have not been practicing lately because I've turned into a slob, I know how important it is to have a plan and to schedule if you have goals and there are things you want to achieve. So I would sit down and say, I'm going to dedicate this much time per week to this side hustle, and here's when I'm going to do it, and here's what I'm going to do during that time. And I would actually block it into my schedule. So I might put in that during this time of day, I'm going to be doing client acquisition, and during this time of day, I'm going to spend 30 minutes just cruising through the group, looking at what posts have been, joining the conversation, and I'm going to spend this time of day, watching videos or whatever it is. But I would actually schedule that time, because if you don't plan for it, it's not going to happen. You're going to have other things that are going to come up. It's the kids, the job, the whatever else that's going to get in the way. So that's something that I think would be very important that a lot of people probably don't do. They're probably just winging it or doing as much as they can every day. But I would be very systematic in, I'm going to spend 30 minutes here, 30 minutes here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And it's more important to do a little bit every day than to try and do everything all at once.
Yeah. I think the good thing about this is you and I are kind of motivated by different things. I think, like, one of the biggest things that motivated me to get started was fear. Like, and I put myself in that position because I just quit my job, and like, I was just like, yo, I'm going to jump in, which please don't do. But I think one of the things that's important, and one of the things I think applies to a lot of things in life, there's a reason that everybody jumped into this course, right? Like, there's something that you were super motivated by it, or probably more likely you were afraid of something. Like, you were afraid you never get out of the 9-to-5 grind, or you're afraid that you weren't going to retire when you wanted to, or that you weren't going to make ends meet every month. I think that this might be like, some people might agree with this. I think you should remind yourself of those things that you're afraid of as often as possible, because 100%. that's one of those things that, I thought I wasn't going to make it. And I thought that I wasn't going to be able to, I thought I was going to be like a failure to my wife, like, hey, I quit my job and I'm not making any money. And that's
Yeah.
the kind of stuff that make it, like, that extra fear and just thinking
Yeah.
about that pretty often, like it's uncomfortable, but that's what made me step out of my comfort zone and call people and get my first client, as somebody that's kind of introverted. So that could be
Yeah.
something that helps a lot too. It kind of
Well,
sucks.
and that's a good point too. That had a big impact on me early on because, I don't know how many of y'all know this part of my story, but I know Bobby does. Like when Cooper, who, makes an appearance all the time, I was really getting into business. I mean, I started before he was born, but I really got into business right after he was born, because he got really sick. I was actually going to shut down my businesses, and because they were truly just side things that I didn't pay a lot of attention to. And then he got sick and was in the hospital for a week. And at the time I was getting ready to leave my job at the oil company to go work like a real, fancy law firm job. And my wife and I didn't even really talk about it. It was just kind of an understanding that since I was already working from home and because of how he got sick, we didn't need to put him in daycare. He was going to be at risk, that I was going to stay home with him. And because of that, I just all of a sudden went, okay, the way oil was going at the time, I was like, my current job that I get to do as an attorney working from home may not be here in 6 months to a year. And I need to get my businesses, like I need them to make money today. And so I did. I focused on them. I built them up, and I left that job at the oil company. And a month later, that company that had been in business for 45 years closed down. And so, there
What
was
year was
that
this? Was this
when
just a
I
couple years
left.
ago? Like 3 years
Yeah,
ago?
this
This is
was,
when oil went down like way, way low, right?
yeah, well, it was, so this was about 3 years ago.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
scary time for a lot
Yeah.
of
And
people around here.
like I said, I quit, and then literally like everyone lost their job and that company just like
Yeah,
disappeared because it was a little family owned thing. So I think that kind of fear is I think that's a good point. Like, and
yeah,
that's, but my real point with the plan thing is you have to make time for it.
yeah.
It's too easy to say I'm too busy. Bobby and I had a conversation about this today because, the kids are screaming and running around while we're having a meeting. And
His
he's like,
child was climbing the refrigerator. Like Cooper opened the fridge. I'm talking to Mike like this right here, and I can see the fridge in the background. The fridge just, and then like a couple seconds later, like there's this child like on like the third floor of the.
so,
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but it's really funny.
mhm. And so he's like, dude, how do you do this? And I was like, you just do it. You just figure it out. And so, and a big reason for that is like, anytime when somebody asks me something like, how are you doing? And I say, oh, I'm good. It's just been busy or something like that. I cringe when I say that. It
Yeah,
drives me crazy because I hate that. And I hate it for other people too, because you're only too busy for something if you don't make time for it. You just have to
yeah.
prioritize. I don't play video games. I don't watch TV.
I don't either. Yeah,
I watch shows, right? Like we'll watch like a 1 hour show, like I'm watching Billions with my wife right now, but
yeah,
but that's, for me, it's a priority to stop working, right? To set time aside to not work. So, but you just need to make time for it.
I agree. We're watching Locked Up right now. You ever watch that?
I don't know what that is.
It's a prison show. It's fascinating. It's a documentary.
Ooh,
Don't it sounds
interesting.
it is it's one of those things where I never thought I'd be into it, but Coral and I watch it all the time. It's
Huh.
absolutely fascinating. Yeah.
Interesting.
Anyways,
So I think for me, the big ones, just to reiterate, are go start looking for clients. You set up and do the LinkedIn method. Just put in your time every day to send your connections, build your asset, do your profile, do all of that. Spend time in other groups and spend time in our group. Plan for that time. Those are the big ones for me,
you know
that I would be
what we
focused
didn't
on.
talk about too. I think you have to have perspective. I think you have to kind of remind yourself about, you know, this is a long game, because I think a lot of people get into this. They're like, yeah, I'm going to go do the LinkedIn thing. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to do all this stuff. And they go really hard for like 2 weeks. And then they get to the end of the 2 weeks and they're like, oh God, I don't have any clients yet.
Yeah.
And the reality is, everybody gets a client at a different time, but you should be prepared to do this for, a year without having success. And I'm not saying that you're going to go a year, but you should be mentally prepared to go a very long time, because in the grand scheme of everything, let's say you did go 1 year without getting a client, or let's say you went 11 months, and then on month 12, you get your first client. You grinded for that long and you just like could not get a client for some reason. Month 12, you get one client, and the rest of your life is completely different, because you unlocked whatever it was that was stopping you from getting a client. Now, I don't think it's going to take you 12 months to get a client if you're really trying.
Right.
But you need to be prepared for that. Like everything in business is what, like, this is a side hustle, yes, but it's a business. This is a real business. It takes time. Like it takes a lot of time to build a business.
Well,
Not kind of get rich quick stuff. And it's the hard part of it.
How long have you been in business now?
I'm coming up on my 3rd year anniversary.
3rd year.
Next month.
So, and I'm somewhere in the 4 to 5 year range. I'm not sure exactly. I kind of played at business for a while. But here's why I want to bring this up. And I don't want this to be depressing, because I feel like you guys, we've given you the tools that you can actually get a client much faster and you can do well. And there's a lot of people in the course that have already done that. But so let's say that, Bobby's in his 3rd year. We'll say I'm in my 4th, because I don't know the exact date. I didn't keep track of that. The success Bobby and I have had has been abnormally fast to reach the level we have. We were talking the other day, like about with this business, like what we've done in 3 months is comparable to what some other businesses that we know, it took them 7 years to achieve. And I'm not doing that to like brag or to pat ourselves on our back or anything. I'm just trying to say, when you look at it in the big picture, if your goal is what we created this course for, which is to have 1 or 2 clients, to have some good money to achieve whatever it is you want to do with that money, you can do that pretty quickly. Definitely within a year, most likely within 3 months, 6 months. Like you're going to
took me 3 months to get my first client.
Yeah. So, okay. So there you go. It took you 3 months to get your first client. I don't even know that for myself. So you've got that, but if you want to take it, if you want to take it though, to be like this big business, to make it, there's no overnight success, and like I said, so if 3 years is insanely fast, so keep that in mind too. I think some other things is just, we talked about, here are some things that we would do. Let's talk about some things that we wouldn't do, because I don't want anybody to be thinking like, okay, they didn't mention this one thing. And so, we really are supposed to we should still focus on that. They just didn't think to mention it. There's some things that we've seen and that people are focusing on that we don't think you should do, right? That we think are no-nos. So why don't you want to kick off into that a little bit, Bobby?
Yeah, I'm trying to think through what some of the ones. So I think one of the things that people do inevitably is they focus on just the wrong stuff, like the stuff that doesn't matter. Like the first thing that matters is getting a client. Like the first thing that matters is getting a client. That's pretty much it. Practicing every aspect of the course. We've seen that a lot where people are like, well, I'm going to practice how to make, a page or a lead page. I'm going to practice, like they practice all of these different things when it's like, okay, that hour that you spent practicing, creating ad copy or creating an ad, choosing images, that hour could have been spent towards client acquisition. And then you're doing it in real time for money, So I think that's probably the first one is like, for me, focus on the things that matter, which at this point in the game is getting a client. You can, all the other stuff we can help you figure out later.
Yeah. I think that's a big one. And I think the other big one that we have seen a lot in the group is going after clients that are too big or too weird, right? Like so if you are, so maybe this is something we should say is one of the first things you should do after you finish the course is you should go watch the niches live training.
Yeah.
And you should look at the ones that we say are good, common, simple niches and you should put all of your focus on those niches and ignore all the others. It'll make your life a whole lot easier.
We had people, and these are people that are like, they're great, you know, like they just, when you get into business, you want to hit the home run. Like you want to go out there and like, I want to go get the $10,000 a month client. And so it's
somebody went to do a client and I was like, I wouldn't even go after that client.
There were a couple where I was just like, that's out of my league.
Yeah. No, exactly.
It was just so far. Like, it was like, that's like a $1 million a year company like that. No, they're not going to hire you to do Facebook ads for them. But a lot of people, they want to, like, you know, everybody gets really excited and they want to hit these home runs. And it's like, that's like me picking up a baseball bat for the first time. And then I'm going to go up against like a major league pitcher. Like, okay, let's go. I'm going to get smoked.
Yeah. You're setting yourself up for success there. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, you need to get the low hanging fruit first, which is in the niches training that we did. Like that's where you need to start. Like, don't try to, the weird thing, you could talk about the weird thing because we've seen a lot of weirdness too.
Well, Monique, I'm not going to pick on you. I just, like, you just asked your travel companies or agents a good niche. I would say that's a weird one. Like, it's not weird. It's a common thing, but it's not something that is commonly that you see used for Facebook ads. And if you go watch that training, you'll see we talk about they're usually brick and mortar service-based businesses that people use very frequently or that everybody uses. Things like
everybody has a dentist, you know.
Exactly.
Hopefully.
Everybody has a dentist. Anybody can use a gym. Not everybody uses a gym, but everybody
wants to get in shape though.
Everybody wants to get in shape. Yeah. You know, even like chiros are a great one, but even chiros, like less people use chiros than say a dentist or a gym. But here's the great thing about chiros. The offers are killer. If somebody said that I could go get a free massage or a free adjustment or a cheap adjustment or something like that, which is a common offer for them, most people would jump all over that, right? Like someone in our group they said the chiro client they had was doing a free adjustment. And I was like, man, I would do that in a heartbeat.
Tomorrow.
In a heartbeat. I sit in a freaking chair all day. Like, you know, like, yeah.
Well, I think a good way to put it's like, do you have a friend that has a dentist? Yes. Do you have a friend in your circle that goes to a gym? Yes. Do you have a friend that goes to a chiropractor? Probably. Do you have a friend with a travel agent? Maybe not. Unless you roll with some pretty stacked people. But I think most people just don't use travel agents. So that's one of the litmus tests that I would maybe.
Doesn't mean you can't do it. Doesn't mean you can't have success with it. All we're saying here is for your first client, take an underhand pitch, right? Yeah. To stick with the baseball analogy, play some t-ball.
Yeah,
right?
Play some t-ball.
Make it easy. So I think that's, one. And I think
but that's one that you can certainly ramp up to. I feel like, you could certainly experiment with that later down the road.
Here might be a good test for it, right? If you're going to post in the group and say, do you think that this would be a good niche for this? Probably not. Hey, what's up? Yeah. Emo Mel just took over my screen.
Hey.
Yo.
I would like to formally apologize if there was any incidental conversation about butts, Puerto Rican economy, or turtles.
We had nothing.
There wasn't until just now. That's a thing that actually just happened. Before that, nobody was worried about that. I didn't see any. But thank you for
keeping it interesting every week.
Hey, I'm messy and y'all knew that. I signed on with my phone and I thought I had logged it out. Ugh.
Yeah, you froze. But no, we didn't hear anything about Puerto Rican butts.
I called you emo Mel or gothic Mel or something like that, and then you froze with a weird face.
It happened.
Froze her. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, I'm sorry to disrupt your training.
No,
you're good. You're good.
No, that was fine.
So yeah, I think, just make it easy on yourself. And this is something with anything in business, I do this to myself all the time. Right now, one of the things that I've been working on for the last 2 weeks is I'm trying to refine and change kind of my daily productivity system, like how I manage things, how I take notes and do to-do lists and stuff like that. And I'm kind of like, I'm doing well. And at the same time, we're setting up all these systems for the team and for both my agency and for Laptop Empires. And we've got these processes and stuff. And I have to keep reminding myself, don't make this too complicated.
Yeah.
Right? Like as soon as it starts to get too convoluted, I go, how can we simplify this? And you need to apply that to everything you're doing and try and make it as easy as possible. And one of the best ways, I can't remember who it was in our group. It was like one of our buddies that like is already a successful business owner. You know, we've got a couple friends that just chill in the group. And he was like, you know, I've found that one of the best things I can do in business is to be as lazy as possible, because when I'm lazy, I only do the essential things. And it's so true. Like only focus on the things you have to do. Oh, hey, Melissa, can you help Julia how to log on with a phone? Cause I have no clue.
No, I don't either.
So she can just type that up. Oh, we've got a question from Sarah here. Sarah. Oh, nice. Download the app. Cool. Sarah says, I'm using May to do the LinkedIn outreach. Today after my job, I did not want to do it. I'd rather have been doing something else, but I knew I'd regret not making those connections to move my business forward. Boom. And that's why we love Sarah, because she's a total badass. Yeah. And she's just putting in the work. That's awesome. I don't even know if she's here. She's still here. Cool.
Yeah. I think that's just one of the things. It's like, at some point you just gotta go do it. What's that meme or the GIF with Shia
LaBeouf. Do it. Yeah.
Do it. I mean, you do. But what I've realized, and it's the same thing with side hustles as it is with like personal finance and all of that stuff.
Or personal finance. Yeah. Finance and personal fitness
stuff. Like there are so many people that want to do stuff and they want to do this. They want to be this and they want to go out and do all this cool stuff and they don't do it.
Yeah. I want to stop being fat right now, but I'm not willing to walk into my garage and do a workout. And I'm not not willing to give up tortillas. And Melissa's dying.
Are you just eating like by themselves?
Oh man, I went through a peanut butter tortilla phase because it's amazing. Peanut butter on a tortilla with some cinnamon. That's how I got fat. So good.
I'm pregnant and that sounds disgusting.
Oh, well, you probably like pickles and ice cream right now. So you're hey buddy. He's waving at us. No, but yeah, you
most people don't do, like most people walk through their entire lives that I've noticed, because I've been able to like access a ton of people's lives. That sounded weird, but it's true. Like most people unhappily walk through their life hoping that or wishing that they had done something else, and you guys have already taken the step that
the hard step,
you know, that 99.9% of people don't do. And then it's like, all you have to do now is go do it. And it's more complicated than that, but
that's the thing, is that a very small percentage of people would take the leap to buy the course and say, I'm going to do this thing. But then only a small percentage of the people actually consume the course and then do the work. If we were to split it up, you know, we can go into the course and we can see who's opened it, what, you know, it shows like they've been in there 10 times, they've completed 35%, whatever. I bet if we went in there, there would be maybe 20% that actually went through the course. And then we can't see this, but I bet you of that percentage, only a small amount of people are going and doing the work. Now, and that's y'all are the regulars. You're the people that always come on here and do these things. And so, you know, you got to take that next step too, which you guys are. So we're talking about the people that aren't here and that aren't going to watch this video.
Can I chime in on your timeline?
Yes.
Yeah,
do
of course.
It. Only
Where are you? Oh my gosh. It happened last week or 2 weeks ago. Yeah. It's incredible.
Bobby and I are going to invite ourselves to vacation with you.
Yeah,
I've been worried about the view out your window all week.
Don't even remind me of that. Oh man. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, I mean this is a new thing for me to be working on, but I was in hospitality sales and marketing for 15 years, and
okay. So
anytime that I hired somebody new or just even changed markets around, so somebody was working something new they hadn't worked before, it was always like 90 days you would see some success. And then like 6 months, you'd feel like things are pretty good. But it was a year before you really would feel like, I've got this figured out. And so I think your timeline's like totally on as far as this, and to feel, frustrated any sooner than that is just, just part of the process. And in that case, like you're hiring somebody to do a job 40 hours a week, and they still like the timeline's still that long.
Yeah. A year. It's so funny because a year is a long time, but a year isn't very long.
I mean, it's May.
It's really not. Yeah, it's May already. We were talking about this today. Is like we launched the course in January, and we looked at the calendar, and it is like, it's already May. But that's not to say, like I said, like you guys aren't. It's not going to take everybody a year to get a client, but you should be realistic and just be like, this is in the long haul. Like I'm in the long haul. I'm going to do this, and it's going to take time. And if you do that and keep it in perspective, I think it's so much easier for you.
Yep.
I wrote something really good the other day.
Oh, really? Tell us about it, Bobby.
I'm going to tell you because it's really good. I wrote it and I was like, wow, that's really nice. So it's failure is not an option if you want to be who you thought you were when you bought the course.
Oh.
Like when you purchase the course, or when you do anything, when you jump in anything, like you see yourself. Like when I jumped into Millennial Money Man, I saw myself as like, I'm going to be this personal finance blogger. I'm going to do this professionally. Right. Like, and so I took the leap into it. You probably saw yourself as like, I'm doing a side hustle. Like you probably visualized it in some way, even if it was just like quick. And so it's like, you can't fail because you saw that, and so the only thing you can do is go create it.
Yeah. So and I remember I told you this one time. I'm a big believer of one of those things. Like if you, if you can't win within the rules, you need to change the game. Right. Like, and I remember I was telling you this, at one point, I'm not like a journaler or anything, but I was going through my desk at one point, and one day, I don't know what had happened. I don't remember what prompted it. I remembered writing it, but I don't know what the catalyst was. But I had written down on a piece of paper that I just had this goal, and it was that I wanted to be the most successful person that the people that I knew. And I don't know what that necessarily was, but for me, that's kind of turned into this business success thing. But like looking back on it, I realized like as an attorney, the way things were, and with the school that I went to and the path that I took and all of those kinds of things, there was this ceiling, and I was only going to be so successful and I was only going to do so much. And now I've changed the rules, and I've done something where, and you guys are doing something as well, where there is no ceiling.
Yeah.
There, you can do that. You can be as successful as you want to be. And I thought it was, what I loved is like we did the poll the other day. Like, do you just want to have a client or two, or do you want to build something, really special, build your own little empire? And we had maybe 50-50, like it was pretty evenly split. And we had people that were just in the middle. Right. And so it doesn't matter. There's no wrong answer there. We created the course, not for people to build an empire, but for people to build a little something. Life without ceiling sounds amazing. It is, bro. It is.
It is. Yeah.
It is. Bobby wants a pony, right? And he can go get a pony if he wants. That's what life without a ceiling is like. You can buy a pony.
You
can't make your neighbor. You can't make your neighbor not build an obnoxious shed in your backyard, but you can buy a pony.
God, man.
That's life without a ceiling.
Yeah. See, my neighbors don't understand that because they're putting you know why they put that storage shed? Quick story, everybody. This is going to go real fast. My neighbors, we have this.
He's so pissed.
I am, because we have this beautiful like sky view, great backyard. It's the reason we bought this lot. These fools put up this, it's got to be 15 feet. I don't know what it is, this monstrosity of a thing. So I was like, why would they possibly need that? The reason they did that is because they had a storage unit.
They needed somewhere to store their pony. No,
they don't have a pony. They just have a bunch of shit. Sorry, pardon my French. They have a bunch of shit that they just store in that shed. And that's all they do. Like they brought in like trailer loads of crap that they haven't touched for 10 years probably. And they just put it in that thing. And now I've got to look at it every day. So anyways, I'm going to report them to the HOA and probably try to get it knocked out because I'm a good neighbor.
That's what I would do.
Anyways,
I would have already been in the HOA contract looking for the stuff that they violated.
I got a business to run though. It's like I can't focus on their stupidity, but I gotta,
Okay. So it's okay for you to not take time to look up the HOA violation and get rid of the shed. But, the fact that I don't want to take the time because I have a business to run to go improve my internet. I see. Double standard.
They installed this thing last week, Mike. The course has been live since January. Like your internet sucked since January. Like
It sucked before then too.
I'm gonna take care of this I'm gonna get this done before you take care of the internet.
Truth.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna take it back down. I went to a 10 there for me. That's a 10 for me. So I'm gonna take it down. That was maybe a 9, 8.
You did. Melissa's right. You got salty.
Dude, it just makes me so mad because there's so many layers to it.
So let's talk about something else that you shouldn't do. And this isn't really like a thing like you should or shouldn't do, like behave. It's not like one of those, hey, these are the things you need to focus on. It's one of those like, we just told you to focus on client acquisition, and here's some things that you shouldn't do with client acquisition. So the first thing is, I wish that whoever had introduced the POC term into our group, I wish that had never been introduced.
I'll be honest, I thought that you did. Like, I didn't know where that came. I was like, why are we talking about POCs all of a sudden? I don't know who. I was like, why are we doing that?
I don't know. And if you are the one that introduced it, don't fess up because I'll kick you out of the group. I will ban you so hard. Actually, I'll let Melissa do it because that's kind of like the highlight of her life.
She does like doing that kind of stuff.
No, but this proof of concept thing, I'm not a fan of it, and here's why.
I'm not either.
First, what I'm gonna say is gonna be very contradictory, and guess what? Life is full of contradictions, and our daily life is constantly contradictions. So you have to kind of take the fact that I'm going to tell you to do one thing, and then I'm going to tell you to do the exact opposite of that as well. So if you were going to do free work, you should not do free work as a lead gen strategy. So the proof of concept strategy, as it's kind of known inside of the group, and it's like a freaking plague, is that you do a free trial to show them kind of the results you can get, and then they magically turn into a paying client. And as you may have seen, if you've done that, I think a couple of people have, or as you maybe have heard us talk about, generally a free client does not turn into a paying client because free offers attract freebie seekers, or the person who does that offer doesn't really respect you enough to trust your expertise and then to continue on after that. Or because you're still giving them the ability to judge whether it was worth their money or not, they decide that it's not. Or because they don't have any skin in the game, they don't do their part. Okay. And that's a big one. It's hard enough to get clients to follow up with the leads adequately to begin with. When they have nothing in the game, when they've got no money to lose, they don't do it. And your service gets no results if they don't do their part. That's the kind of the catch-22 of this. So now here's the contradiction. You need to do whatever you possibly can to get a client, even if that means working for free. Okay? You just need to get experience so you can learn some things and so that you can take that confidence into the next one. So if you need to work for free, work for free. But if you're going to work for free because you like that person, because they're a friend, because you want to help them out, or because you want to get experience, and go into that situation with no expectation of them being there a month later. Because if you do that, your expectations will likely come true and you won't be disappointed and you'll get good experience out of it. So that's just kind of something with the POC thing. So get experience any way you can, and free is okay. But what's better is get paid a little bit, right? Get paid $200, get paid $500, get paid something, but get paid something maybe little, and that's okay. And just to, I talked about in a post one time or a video, I can't remember, kind of like a ladder method. If you're not confident enough to go out there and pitch a $1,000 retainer right off the back, and you start lower, pick a number you're comfortable with, right? Because pricing is it's a mental thing. It's what you're comfortable with and confident with. And so if you're only comfortable with saying the words $250, then start with $250, but then make a commitment to yourself that the next one's going to be $400. And the one after that's going to be $600, and then $800, and then $1,000, and work your way up. Right. So that's the contradiction is don't be afraid to do whatever you have to do. Even, don't be afraid to take less money or even work for free to get that experience, but don't undersell yourself and then expect that person to just magically upgrade to a full quality paying client. I'll tell you, you guys, I'll let you in on something. I've got a client that still pays me $500 per month. He's been with me forever, and I've never increased his prices because I like the guy and I've been with him forever. I don't mind. Right. So, but he was one of my earliest clients.
Yeah. I think my biggest thing with the POC, what I see, because I like the ladder method. I think if you go into it and you're really uncomfortable saying a bigger number, then I think the ladder method works really well if you need to boost up confidence. What we saw a lot in the very beginning when we started doing this with the POC stuff is like people would go from like, instead of saying 1,000, they would go straight to 0. They were like, it was like, hey, they got the client to the point where they're like, cool, how much is this? And they would go like, well, it's free. Like, I'll do it for a month for free. When it's like, no. Any negotiating, like in negotiating, he who speaks first loses. So like when you say your number first, you lose. But if you're going to lose, you need to lose high. And so if you're ready to say a big number, you need to say a big number. That's like, for me, my first client was 3,000. I just blurted it out. I was like, $3,000. And they were like, okay, cool. That sounds good. And you just like, you never know what the business owner is going to be comfortable with. And so that's why it's like when people went with the POC campaigns, when we first saw that, and they still do it, they immediately went to like, well, I'll just do it for free for a month. And it's like, no, there's so many levels.
Yeah. If you go
500, you can do 250. Like there's so many more that you could have done instead of 0.
If you go for a big number and you drop to free, you're going to waste your time because that person's lost all respect for you.
Yes.
Because, right. And so, Bobby and I have been hiring different people for different jobs. And then I've been on top of that. Like I've been in meetings a lot this week because I'm trying to find a videographer and people to do this thing and that thing and all this stuff. And when I talk to people and you start talking about pricing, like I had one, I had this happen with like 2 people this week where I was talking to them and the price came in really, really high. Right. And I had, like, for example, one of the guys was telling Bobby, I was like, hey, can you do this? Can I just pay you to do this service? And he's like, yeah, we'll do a 100-day contract, $10,000. And I was like, yeah, that's not going to work for me. Like, I respect, but that isn't going to work for me.
Sometimes people are just smoking crack.
Yeah.
Like that.
And he came back and then he came back with a lower number, but it was like 8,000. And I was still like, I'll do it myself, man, but I appreciate it. Thank you for your time, And I actually told him, I was like, can I pay you for your time? Because, but it's one of those things, like, to put this on another, if somebody says 1,000 and they're like, that's, they start hemming and hawing about the price, then you can back up a little bit. And it's really easy to do that because if you've been doing the questions and you've been building rapport and you've been having a conversation, then you can just say, like, look, I get it. Here's the deal. Like, I really liked you. I really enjoyed this conversation. I believe in what you're doing. So I would be willing to do this for $750, give you a discount. You can test it out. If at the end of the month you don't like it, you don't have to continue, but I'm willing to do that. What do you think? They might still say no. And if they're going to say no at that point, they're probably going to say no matter what. Yeah. But they might surprise you. You might be surprised because they might be like, oh, wow, that's incredibly generous. Like, you just gave me a 25% discount. Sure. But if you go from like 1,000 to 500, they might be like, okay, like, this doesn't seem right, right? It seems suspicious. So, there's that fine line between like, let me help you, like, let me do you a favor. And I am so desperate for your work that I will do it for half off. Right.
Yeah.
You gotta
Pricing is one of
find
those
that.
hard things. Pricing is one of the hardest things when you haven't been in business before. You just have
Probably
to
needs to be a whole training on just
it.
talking about pricing and packages. And
We probably should, because there's so
Yeah.
many different ways, and there's so much like interplay there with you and the business owner, and like, I mean, there's a lot to that. So we probably should do a training on that. Melissa, can you write that down, or can somebody write that down?
Don't worry, it's already written down because I already had it in mind for a training. Got it.
Is it in Asana? Did you put it in Asana?
Of course,
Okay.
I did.
Oh,
course.
Don't give me that. Okay, so okay, let's see. Somebody asked a really good question. So Tyler, we're you gonna hit Tyler's?
Sure, we'll hit Stephanie's too, but we'll hit Tyler first.
Stephanie's is longer, so we can,
Well, yes.
Okay, so he said contractor selling for a set number. Do you ever sell the leads for a set price or percentage of profits and spend your own money on ads? Whoa, okay. Or do clients not generally respond to that? There's a lot in there.
So most clients would like that deal because it takes the risk away for them. But I don't like that deal because I have to work for free. I have one client right now that we work on a percentage basis, and we work on a percentage basis because it was good for both of us because he got that deal. There was no risk for him, but the possible reward for me was so high that it was worth the risk because it was it was something that I could earn really, really good money for the amount of work, to where the percentage, even if it wasn't great, like even if the results weren't great, I was still going to make my fee. Right. So that was all upside, but that's not normal. And I've only had that happen one time in all these years. So I'm not a big fan of that. Now there's, when we talk about packages, pricing and stuff, there's pricing models where you can do percentages and things like that. Like when we brought on our copywriter, we paid him a fee plus a percentage. Right. And so, sometimes there's like, that's a good hybrid that you can go down. But the problem with the percentages, now you might get them results, but if they can't sell, you don't make money for your work. Yeah. So that's something to consider too.
When you're depending on them, that's not really.
Yeah.
You want to depend on you. So, yeah. And then he said, and spend your own money on the ads.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, he put it in parentheses.
Never. No. We had one person in this course very early on. Can't remember who it was that offered to not only work for free, but spend their own money on the ads for a real estate client. And luckily he knocked it out of the park and he made some money off of it. But I remember having a conversation with him being like, never do that again. No, it might've been Justin. I wasn't going to call out anybody by name, but I don't mind calling Justin out. I think it was Justin, and he's doing very well. But so I think that's something that I would shy away from. But I love this suggestion Amy made, that in her conversation she's had, she talks about the ad spend first and setting a budget before she talks about the fee. That's very smart. I've never done that before, but
savvy. Yeah, I like that.
I'm going to do that myself. I think that's a really great strategy. So when you get to money, you say, okay, hey, let's talk about the budget, and you can tell them that minimum budget or what they want to spend, and then see kind of how they react to that before you kind of set your fee. I think that's a really great way to probe a little bit.
Yeah, that's interesting, because usually, well, not usually, but sometimes when you say the fee and then add the budget on top of it, you kind of have to like talk the business owner like down a little bit. Like you tell them the fee and they're like, oh wait, I have to pay for the ad spend too. And you have to explain to them like, no, that's really not that big of a deal. So yeah, I think that's pretty smart.
Yeah. And, and something that I want to say, I've talked about this in another training, but I think it's just, sometimes it's good to repeat things because I don't know what live trainings all of you are watching. So I'm always thinking about the people watching the recordings. When it comes to the money conversation, a really natural thing to do is to name your price and then just have diarrhea of the mouth and just put your foot in your mouth, and just like keep talking and basically talk them out of it. And so one of the things that I've always done that I think works really well is take that propensity to continue talking after you say to the number and kind of race past it, but use it in like a productive manner. Right. And the way I always handle it is I basically say, okay, this is great. I think you have a good business to do this. I think that we can help you. We can provide you the leads and help you get more sales. Our services are $1,000 a month. And here's what's going to happen next. Right. And I go straight into it. It's going to be $1,000 a month. Here's what's going to happen next. I'm going to send you a payment form if you decide to work with us. And as soon as you fill it out, we're going to start the onboarding process. I'm going to gather all the information that I need from you. That way we can start building your campaign. My team or yourself, like we'll immediately, I'm going to immediately start building your funnel. We're going to have a conversation where we're going to set up your business manager, get your ad account and everything set up. We're going to talk about your offer and get everything planned out. And I'll be building the funnel while we have those conversations. And then within 3 days or a week or whatever it is, we're going to be able to start your ads. What do you think? Right. And then you be quiet.
Yeah.
You don't say anything else, but that people fear what comes next. Right. And so it's really easy to say, this is my price. And then here's the process we're going to go through. And when you deliver it that way, you say, when would you like to start? Or what do you think? And you just leave them. It's a lot easier. It's a more productive use of that kind of diarrhea of the mouth.
I like, when would you like to start?
Mm-hmm.
I had a good friend of mine, actually one of my mentors, Jim. He used to sell insurance. And so he'd give them the whole spiel. And at the end of it, instead of like asking them like, would you like to do this? He would literally like hand the paper over and put the pen in their hand and be like, are you ready? Like, here you go. And that was like, that's how he sold them. If you don't
Nice.
give them a way out, it's just really interesting. Totally different, but the same.
Yeah. Robert said that's what he did yesterday and it worked really well.
Nice.
Yeah. Having people to apply to be clients, like, here's the deal. That kind of stuff works really well down the road, but generally you kind of have to have some authority where you have to have a really good ad budget to pull that off, because you're going to be pushing away a lot of prospects. And in the beginning, it's a numbers game, right?
I think that's one of the things, like we could probably do that through Laptop Empires if we wanted to.
Yeah. Like I do that. Right.
Yeah.
But I also like don't want to get like, I even to the extent now, like I don't want to get on calls with people. So a lot of the stuff that we teach you that I used to do, I don't do as much now. So like I had somebody ask me if they could talk about ad management yesterday. And I said, I don't hop on phone calls with people until the onboarding call. So my base fee, like these are my fees. If that's not going to be a problem for you, then let me know what questions you have. And then when you're comfortable to sign on, I'll send you the payment form and then we'll schedule our onboarding call. And he was like, oh, that's not within my budget. Well, that saved me an hour. Right.
Right.
So, but that's not something you should really do yet.
You'll get there. Yeah.
Oh, and then let's talk about Stephanie's really quickly. So this is kind of off topic, but
that's
and
good.
Part of it. Yeah, but it's a good question. So is there a benefit to doing a conversion campaign versus a lead gen campaign? Because it seems like the lead gen campaign's easier, but you don't have the benefit to testing the two. So are there any other reasons that one would be better than the other? So that's part one. Part two is, when you do a lead gen campaign, does that automatically send the lead contact on the account to your client, or do you still need to use Zaps and everything? So really great questions. Bobby, you want to take any of those? Or you want me to just?
Yeah. I mean, so lead gen is cheaper. Facebook likes lead gen more because it keeps everybody.
Sometimes.
Well,
TAFO.
In general. Yeah. TAFO. But in general, a lead gen is probably going to be cheaper because you're keeping somebody on Facebook. They like to keep people on Facebook versus sending them to a totally different website. Mike, you start out with lead gen campaigns, don't you?
Yeah. And yes, I do. And I'll tell you why. Like, lead gen campaigns, generally things where you keep people on Facebook are going to be cheaper because Facebook doesn't want you to leave Facebook. But sometimes, the reason I said sometimes is because it depends on the area. So lead gen is more commonly used. So sometimes you will get cheaper results with conversion campaigns because there's less competition, right? And it's all about competition. So I would say it's a toss up. I'm using more conversion campaigns than lead gen campaigns at this moment. But 2 months ago, I was using lead gen campaigns more. 6 months ago, I was using conversion campaigns more. You got to zag. But yeah, my process, our onboarding system is when a client comes on, my team starts building the funnel and they run the lead gen campaign first, because the lead gen campaign, you create the lead form, you create the copy, you run it. And so we can actually start a campaign while we build the landing page funnel and ClickFunnels, install the pixels and all of that kind of stuff. And then if the lead form is not working the way we want it to, we automatically switch to the conversion campaign with no change to the copy, because we want to test that first. And sometimes that gets us better results. And we do that before we change the copy or the image. And then if that doesn't work and we have the budget, we run both at the same time with the new copy and creative.
What would you say though for somebody just starting out?
I would say like which one should you do?
Yeah.
Depends on the area. If you don't want to, if you want to,
first client, like you haven't paid for ClickFunnels, like you haven't done anything.
Well, if you haven't paid for ClickFunnels, you got to use the lead
right. Form. So like most people, what we found is they do lead gen campaigns, and then once they start getting paid, then they open it up so that they can test both.
Yep.
Because like that's like the thing about the course is like you can run campaigns for free, like the whole course is designed for that. But if you're doing if you're doing lead gen. So that's what we see a lot is like people start with the lead gen campaign, they experiment, they get the paying client, then they go to conversion. And
now, another factor of that is clients incorrectly believe that landing pages and conversion campaigns lead to higher quality clients than a lead form does. And it's wrong. It's not true, but that's what they think. So, from that perspective, sometimes conversion campaigns are better.
Like with the, I had a very obscure client, something I would never tell you guys to do because it took a lot of really like kind of weird interest targeting and stuff, but we were running a lead gen and it was working really well. And then they were like, no, we don't feel like the leads are qualified enough. So we want them to go to this other, we want them to go to a lead form with a longer, we want them to fill out more information.
Take your time.
It doesn't work as well. And I told them like, no, we really don't need to do that. And so, but against my better judgment, we tested it and it didn't work. And so then we went back to lead gen and it worked. So it's like, it's just, yeah. If you can keep it simple with the lead gen, especially if a weird client like that,
Yeah.
So
the second part of that question is the automatic delivery. And the thing with that is that when somebody opts in as a lead with a lead form, the information is stored on your page. You have to go into page settings. We teach you how to do it in the course. And then you have to download a spreadsheet. You have to download it over and over when the leads come in. If you want to automatically connect it, there's an automatic connection inside of Facebook for MailChimp, but personally, I never recommend MailChimp to people. It's like it's free, but it's like one of the worst email services you can use. But if it's anything else, you need to use apps. You need to use Zapier. And unfortunately, it's like $10 a month or something like that if you want to use the Facebook lead form, which I didn't realize. I thought it was free, but I thought it was free because I had a paying account before I started using the Zaps for lead form. So I didn't realize it was a pro feature. But still, it's $10 a month. Yeah. But we cover all that in the course.
Yeah.
It just changed recently. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay. So, okay. Explains my confusion because in the course, I'm like, it's all free. You can do whatever you want. And then, somebody was like, yeah, it's asking me for money.
Yeah. But I mean, even like when you get through the course, you can still run stuff for free. You do have to download it and you got to stay on it because, the faster the lead gets to the client, the better.
Yep. Yeah. And I'm going to touch on that for a second, but if you've got any questions, because we're going to wrap up here in a second, go ahead and drop your questions. We'll give you a moment to type them up. That way we can get started. Allie's going to town. But yeah, that speed of delivery, or that speed of follow-up with the leads, is so important.
It's huge.
It's huge. And I always say, like, for me, like, I've noticed a big difference between in that 15-minute mark. And there's studies from like Harvard, Business Review and all kinds of different things on this. And but it's a big deal. So, and that's one of those things that you can have a conversation. Sales, we're gonna have that sales training, but sales, a lot of it's about authority, right? And power. And what's Trump's book on negotiating, and it's all, he talks about power and leverage. And one of the things you can do is not, you want to ask questions, you want to learn things, but you also want to like share your expertise to a point. And so talking to your client about their process for following up with leads, ask them what their process for following up with leads is, and find out, and then pointing out to them how important, how quickly it is. And you can even say, hey, if we're going to do this together, if we're going to work on this, one of the things is you're going to have to follow up with leads in this way in order to get results. Are you willing to do that? Right. And by doing that, that's a power play, but it's also saving you a lot of headaches, because then when they don't do it, you can say, hey, you said you were going to do this, and right now we're getting you good cost leads, but you're not making sales because you're taking 3 days to follow up with people. So it's very important.
Just hit Robert's question. Allie, we'll hear yours in a second. Robert said, once you get a client, what kind of things do you recommend to get them to pay their invoice quickly? I follow it up with them, but don't want to seem like I'm pestering them. So in the course, we talk about getting them set up on auto bill so that you don't have to do the invoice stuff. Now, I've worked with clients. This is always a tricky game. Like, it depends on what you're doing with them. Like, I've worked with clients where I've done SEO stuff and a lot of different services to where I couldn't just auto bill the same amount every month, so I had to invoice. But like, I've had clients that have gone, and actually for the first time, I told Mike this, somebody owed me $4,500 for like 3 months or something crazy. And I was pissed. But if you're just doing the Facebook services for them, like, I would try to get them on auto bill immediately.
Yeah. And I think the question here is like, how do you get them to pay? How do you deliver it? And so the first thing is, if you can get them to pay right then and there, that's always good. I used to take, back when I would do the fitness stuff, I would just take their credit card number over the phone and I would type it into Stripe. But that's, a lot of people, might not be comfortable with that. So what I do is I get them on board. I'm like, so when do you want to start? And they say whatever. And then I reiterate the process and I say, okay, the minute I hang up from this, or I might do it right then and there on the phone, I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to give you this, I'm going to send you this link to the order form. It's the same kind of order form that you join the course with. And I say, as soon as you pay that, we're going to start doing the work. I'm going to send you the onboarding stuff, but I need that before we will do any work. And then I send it. And a lot of times, a lot of them pay it right then. And if they don't, they might say, hey, okay, cool. Thank you. I got to go back to work now or whatever. I'll pay it this evening, or, all that kind of stuff. And then if I don't hear from them, I will follow up. Right. And so I'll say, hey, do you have, it was great talking to you today. I'm really excited to get started. Just send me that invoice and we can get things kicked off first thing in the morning, or I can get you kicked off, I can start today, or I might, hit them up and be like, hey, do you have any questions after our time yesterday? Let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. I've got, all this stuff, ready. I might say, we have an onboarding questionnaire. So I might say, I've got your questionnaire ready. We need to schedule your onboarding call if you do an onboarding call. And so just send me that invoice and we can schedule that. And I'll just kind of, not be like, give me my money, but I'll be like, do you have any questions? Is there anything I can help you with? We'll get started. And I just keep saying that over and over. We'll get started as soon as you send that. We'll get started as soon as you send that. And they either usually pay. They usually either pay, or they're like, you'll find out really quickly if they're having second thoughts. They'll be like, well, I got to do this and that, and then you just address it as it comes up.
Yeah. Most business owners are pretty good about, well, good business owners are pretty good about paying.
Yeah.
The good ones want to pay quickly because they want to
Yeah.
get it off their mind.
Yeah. Well, let's get into Allie's question, because this is one of those ones that I think we wanted to talk about and we really didn't. Was there's so many tools and there's so many things to play with and to do, and like, don't mess with them. You know, like, I think one of the things that we like, just don't mess with them until you need to. Like, don't mess with anything until you need to. One of the things that we saw, and I'm forever going to like regret the original business manager training because it caused so much confusion. But one of the things that we saw everybody doing right away was, I need a business name. That way I can go create my Facebook page and I can go create my business manager. If you do not have a team, you don't need your own business manager account. If you're not running your own ads, you don't need your own business manager account. They will add you to their business manager account by adding your personal email that you signed up for Facebook with. So you don't need to start a business manager. You don't even need a business page. I would start a business page, but it's just not something I'd make a high priority. And I wouldn't worry about Zapier or ClickFunnels or any of those things until you have a client. And then the one personally that I would get first is Zapier, because it makes your life easier. It makes your clients more successful. Now you can I'll tell you what I did early on. I made my clients get Zapier. And then and then what I started doing is I just went, you know what? I'm just going to pay for this thing and I'm going to provide it to them as a bonus to my service. It's a value add, right? But I would get Zapier first because I think it makes them better and it makes them follow up with leads. And then the next one I'd get ClickFunnels, because having the flexibility to do ClickFunnels and conversion campaigns or do lead form campaigns makes a big, big deal.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just
I like what you said. No, I like what you said though. It's like she's saying like she put all this different stuff in here, and I know Allie, like she's a go-getter, like she's gonna go do everything. Yeah. But I wouldn't, past the, Zapier, but like I wouldn't be messing with, ClickFunnels. Like I wouldn't be messing with a ton of different stuff. I would be doing LinkedIn, the Facebook group stuff. Like I would dedicate almost all your time to client acquisition. And if you want to get comfortable with some stuff, cool, get comfortable with some stuff. But like every minute that you're not spending on client acquisition is a minute that you could be, it's like 2 or 3 business owners that you're not reaching out to.
And I'll say it again, you can't figure it out until you're doing the thing.
Yeah.
Zapier does not make any sense until you create your first Zap and you know what you need to do, like like when you're starting out, you need to go find a client and do the things you need to do to find a client. And you need to get really active in our group, right? That's like, those are the things you need to do. And all the tools and everything, you can figure them out when you have a client to figure them out for.
Well, like if I'm figuring out something, I want to be paid to figure it out, which is what happens when you have a client paying you. I don't want to figure stuff out for free. Like there's a lot of things I can figure out in life. I don't want to figure out a bunch of them because I'm not getting paid for them. So if I'm getting paid to figure out, I'm like, I'll do that every day. So that's the approach I would take. Like if you're not getting paid to figure it out, don't try to figure it out.
And that's a really good point too. You and I are obviously a little different because being an entrepreneur for years changes your mentality and it changes your outlook on life. But if your goal, be the person today that you want to become, start being that person, start thinking like that person, right? So we just told you that's a big secret for us. Like you can't get Bobby or I to do anything if we're not going to get paid to do it, right? Like, that's just a fact. So have that attitude, right? Like if it's not going to directly benefit you, so what's the thing you got to do that gets you paid? Finding a client, right? And then when you're getting paid, all those other things are the things you got to do to get results. But, just to kind of go through this, because I didn't read it out, I want to read Allie's question because they're not going to see these comments.
Yeah.
She said, beyond biting the bullet to find a client, I was a little overwhelmed by all the tools, the steps, and all the different things that were going on, from an email list, making email lists, Zapier, ClickFunnels, now LinkedIn. There's so many tools. So or even setting up a payment form. I wouldn't even worry about payment until I had my first call booked. Right? And then I would figure that out. Cool. Sorry, I'm reading again.
No, you're fine. No, and I think the cool thing, like for Allie, just I've known Allie for a long time, for years now. God, probably like 10 years now. It's been a long time. But she's probably like a lot of people that I know that are very go-getter. I want to figure everything out. And that's just one of those things about entrepreneur. Like, you're never going to have everything figured out. You just won't.
Perfectionism can kill you as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Like Mike and I are pretty good at this, and there's still a lot of things we don't have figured out. Like, we're still daily trying to figure out what we're going to do with things. Yeah. And it's just, that's the way it is. 13.
Well, and there's stuff with ads. Like, Tanya was saying the other day, like, she's learned so much since becoming an expert, like, admin person in this group. And, and that there's things that come up that she didn't know and that she learned, or, like, there's been times where you guys have asked me questions and I went, I don't know the answer to that question, and I've had to go phone a friend, like, I'll call up my buddy and be like, hey man, have you ever done this? Like, what's the deal? Like, what do you think? And then I come back with the answer. It's that I don't know, I'll go find out thing. So yeah, you can't expect to know everything. Monique says, do clients typically pay the fees and cost of ads together? Yes, they cover it all. There's certain people that they charge, it's inclusive, and it's like, we charge you this fee, but you pay the ads. I don't recommend you do that. That happens in certain industries, and it's usually bigger budgets. And what's happening is those people are charging this big fee, and they're incentivized to get cheaper leads, to that way they can make more money. But that you only see that with like really big fees, like 10K and above.
See, I read Monique's question is like, do you invoice them for the total of what it's going to be?
Oh, I read that as, do the clients pay your retainer and they pay the cost of the ads?
Okay. Well, maybe.
Oh, but no. I think you're right. Together or separately. They're paying you your retainer. They're paying Facebook the ads using a credit card inside of the ad account.
Yeah.
You could be right.
Easy peasy. Either way.
Tyler's so right. Just in time learning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that happens like all the time. Like, we do that stuff. Hey, we got to figure something out. We just go figure it out. Like, we don't know it. One last thing, I guess, unless there's any other questions, but I think it's time to kind of close this down. Something that I want to point out. We've talked a lot tonight about how important it is to go take action, to go find that client, and to not worry about being perfect, and just going to do things and go and figure out as you can. I think Bobby and I, in this course that you're in, is a really good example of that, because we had an idea at Thanksgiving and then didn't talk about it again until the second or third week of December, and then built the whole entire course and the sales pages and everything in like 5 weeks, and then launched it with no idea how the course was going to turn out, how the group was going to be, how we were going to do certain things. We just went and did it, and we figured stuff out as we went, so you can have a lot of success by taking major action quickly, right? But even more important, but that, I'm just saying to kind of prove the point of, like, you don't have to know everything to be successful. You just have to go do something that other people aren't willing to do. And you need to do a little bit every day, and you need to show up consistently, just like setting a budget, just like paying off debt, just like going on a diet. Fitness, budgeting, building a business, it's all about daily, consistently showing up. So, you got anything?
No, I thought that was a great way to close it out, because
Sweet.
yeah, we did. We just figured it out.
saw
We
you
could have taken a
grinning.
year and a half of trying to like figure out how everything was going to work in the group and everything.
And that's what most people do.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
and they don't get to hang out with all these cool people because they're
Nope.
too slow. No, it wasn't perfect, clearly. Since somebody got mad at us for yawning
Thanks,
in a video
Melissa.
or whatever. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. And hopefully next week we'll have a sales training. If not, we will have some other equally spectacular training for you. So,
All right.
all right. Later, guys.